Tap, tap, tap in. What's going on, guys? This is your Monday Night Raw post show for August 4th, 2025. This is the Raw after SummerSlam, the very first two-night SummerSlam. So you know that coming into this show, there's going to be a lot to discuss, especially with the controversial return of Brock Lesnar in the main event of SummerSlam Night 2. It was a wild night. We saw on night 1 Seth Rollins cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase. Most people thought that this was possibly, something that was going to be brewing. I personally sniffed this thing out as soon as a couple of weeks ago. I thought it was pretty obvious this was going to be the direction. I thought that a lot of times in wrestling, when they talk about, this injury is going to be such a long-term thing, and they emphasize how long somebody is going to be out, for me, it's kind of a dead giveaway that, hey, things can be a little bit deceiving. But before I get into the show, guys, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't. I think that with everything that is going on now, and what's being set up for SmackDown, I thought it was really important for them to really be able to start the show off with a bang. I think that starting it off with Seth Rollins made the most sense because there were so many questions surrounding what went down at SummerSlam with him. What was going on. They had to explain the fact that he basically was lying about his injury, had to display what was going to be the mission plan going forward, and we had to get an answer of who is going to be his opponent now coming out of SummerSlam. But we start off the show with Rollins. We have Paul Heyman start off this promo. He is flanked by, of course, Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, two guys who were not successful in their match at SummerSlam. But Paul Heyman comes out and he says, I'm the GOAT, right? I am the GOAT. He starts calling, Braun Breaker the big dog. This is his yard now. He calls Bronson Reed the tribal thief because if you guys remember, he stole Roman Reigns' Jordan Spizites, which if you guys are into shoes like I am, a little bit pricey and kind of hard to get your hands on. So me personally, not a big fan of Bronson Reed for doing that because I know if I was Roman Reigns and I had my Spizites stolen, I would be very angry. But he says, usually I'd be introducing the OTC. Roman Reigns is champion, but Roman Reigns hasn't been champion in over a year and a half. Usually I'd be coming out here and I'd be introducing CM Punk, the best in the world. But CM Punk, he wasn't even long enough champion to even get the side plates placed on his title after SummerSlam, right? He says, CM Punk, he looked at that title like he was married to it, but CM Punk basically got his wife stolen by Seth Rollins. Seth took her on the honeymoon, and she was good. Very graphic stuff from Paul Heyman, if you can read in between the lines. And then he says, Seth Rollins starts opening up his promo, and he says, shame on you guys, right? Shame on everybody. Shame on the Brooklyn crowds. Shame on everybody who turned their back on him following WrestleMania. It says shame on CM Punk. Shame on the OTC. Everybody wants to sit there and chant their names and use their names as taunts towards me. And then he says, I've been a marked man for a long time. And he's in shame on the locker room for trying to think they can outsmart me and trying to stop this cash in. He said, but as you guys know, I always have a plan B, which is a subtle reminder of that infamous Shield turn that was dealing with Triple H, right? And he says, the secret, this was a top secret thing. The only two people who knew about me coming back and cashing in for my injury was Becky Lynch, his wife, and Paul Heyman, the Oracle. Now they have absolute power with the championship in fold. This was the plan. This was the vision. And I believe that they are now going forward with that title as their group division, which makes a little bit more sense, right? LA Knight's music hits. And this is where things get a little bit interesting. And this is where things start to make a lot more sense to me, right? LA Knight, he congratulates everybody in the ring. And he says, you faked an injury. That was pretty smart. You faked an injury to be able to cash in this championship opportunity with the briefcase. But more importantly, I think that you faked an injury not to get the title, but I think that you faked the injury because if you guys remember, this injury took place at Saturday night's main event against LA Knight, right? LA Knight, he got the pin over Seth Rollins, but he says, I think you faked an injury to basically prevent yourself from getting more of a beatdown that was owed to you, right? This is, as the guy who is the last person to pin you, I think that I should deserve a shot at the championship. And I think that, yeah, this is going to go down, right? Seth Rollins does the typical heel thing, hypes up the crowds like, you want a shot at the title? You want to go one-on-one on Monday Night Raw? You want to go one-on-one right now in Brooklyn? Nope, it's not happening. Looks as if he's going to roll out. Adam Pearce comes out. Obviously, Adam Pearce in kayfabe would make a lot of sense for him to be angry. Seth Rollins had his medical team lie to Adam Pearce's medical team. He lied to Adam Pearce, who is his GM. He says, and usually a lot of times when it comes to these championship matches, I like to promote it, make it as big as possible. But this isn't a usual situation. So we are going to get in the main event, Seth Rollins versus LA Knight for the championship. Made a lot of sense, right? And before I even get to the main event, we all knew, right? We all sniffed it a mile away. When we get a championship match in the main event, we knew somehow, some way, CM Punk was going to be interfering in that match. And that's pretty much what Night Kid I'm old. I appreciate you stopping by. Make sure you hit that like button before you dip out, though. All right? Guys, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't. Before we get more into Monday Night Raw, if you guys didn't catch the SummerSlam post show last night when I discussed the return of Brock Lesnar, I'd really like to hear from you guys. What are your feelings about that, right? I know it's a very divisive topic at the moment, especially with all the things that are surrounding him outside of the ring. I want to know from you guys, how do you guys feel about the Brock Lesnar return? Are you guys happy about it? Do you guys have issues about it? Let me know in the comment section, because if you guys don't know, this is a very interactive experience. This is basically us chilling, talking about wrestling, right? Hit that like button regardless. Hit the like button and subscribe. So we get a backstage segment with the Judgment Day. Dominic Mysterio is celebrating him retaining the championship against AJ Styles, and he sees the LWO in the hallway, and he asks him, what are they doing? Tells him to get out the hallway, show some respect. And Dragon Lee says, you want me to show you some respect? How about we make this thing happen in the ring? Dominic Mysterio accepts his challenge. He is confronted by AJ Styles, who gives him his props for the whole boot angle where we saw that was a tribute to Eddie Guerrero's match at WrestleMania 21 against Kurt. Not WrestleMania 21. Wrong show. WrestleMania 20 at the Garden. Got it mixed up for a little bit. WrestleMania 21 was where he wrestled Shawn Michaels. Had to correct myself. But you guys remember the infamous spot, right, where Eddie Guerrero slips out of the ankle lock with the boot. We basically got a play from that, and AJ Styles gives him his props. Says, that was very clever. Right? He says, but I'm still going to be gunning for that Intercontinental Championship, and time is running out. And the night, the moment of the night is where he says, yeah, time is running out because you're getting old. I tell you, I found the comment section on your last show, get the wood chipper. Not a violent man, but hey, this is something that people need to remember as well. It's not a criminal suit. It's a civil suit for the most part, right? So jail time isn't on the horizon at the moment. And with Vince McMahon's connection with the president, even if it was a criminal process, I'm pretty sure that thing would get snapped away right away. So I think we need to find out as much as possible. We saw Janelle Grant. Her legal representation came out today, and she put out a pretty emphatic statement about, all the things that are going to be uncovered. And it's going to be an interesting way that whole situation plays out. Guys, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe. It helps the channel out in more ways you even know. We're getting closer and closer to 3,000 subs. So if you guys could feel kind enough to hit that like button and subscribe, it would be much appreciated on my end. We are getting Rusev one-on-one with Sheamus. This is the third encounter that we have gotten between these two guys. And for me, I've said this a couple different times. It feels as if obviously Sheamus is going to get a response, right? People are into Sheamus. But Rusev, it feels as if people could care less about Rusev since he's made his return to the WWE. But it was extremely back and forth, not too high profile, look, we saw it last night when Brock Lesnar came out, that people, the roof blew off the freaking building, right? When Vince McMahon, in the height of his allegations, where all these things were coming out, the guy came out and was getting cheered by the crowd, right? We say that it's too high profile. They need to bring these people down, but time and time again, we see multiple different situations where it doesn't usually work out that way, right? But Rusev and Sheamus, very hard hitting stuff. There was a couple different times where Sheamus was going for his 10-piece spot, but Rusev was able to find a way to get out of it. They brawled on the outside. It ended up in a count out. And throughout the night, it was a running theme where you saw these guys brawling in different segments, right? Rusev, Sheamus, I like the fact that they're trying their best to get interest into this. I think everybody is a fan of seeing two big, meaty men hitting each other and slapping meats with each other. Big pause on that. But I'm not too into this stuff with Rusev. Sheamus, always a crowd pleaser, but I'm kind of good on this. I know they're trying their best, but it's just not working for me personally. Guys, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe. If you guys are getting annoyed at me repeating it, there's been multiple times where we've had tons of people in this chat and the ads and the likes don't add up. So just trying to beat you guys into submission with it, please. Next, we get a segment with the New Day. They have been grieving their tag team championship loss for some time now. Grayson Waller is trying to ingratiate himself with the New Day, and they've been mourning, trying to get an opportunity for them to get a rematch for their tag title. Grayson trying to prove his worth to the group. He sees Adam Pearce. He basically says, Adam, you need to show respect. Give the New Day their rematch. Calls him Baldy multiple times. Both promotions, AEW and WWE, are very, very discriminatory against the Balds. Not big fans of the Balds, but Adam Pearce kind of blows off Grayson Waller because he's talking to Penta, and basically Penta and Grayson Waller, they go a little bit face-to-face, and it gets set up that we're going to see Grayson Waller versus Penta up next. And I don't think that there is much for me to say about that because obviously Penta's going to win. I think the highlight of that was we had Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. You know that with this whole grieving process that they're going to get, I don't know if you guys have ever been to a funeral, but if you've ever been to a funeral, you see old ladies with big, outrageous size hats. Xavier Woods had one on. Grayson Waller, he lost his match by a Mexican destroyer. After that, the New Day confronted Penta. He snatches off Xavier Woods' big goofy hat, and he does his strut with this ginormous hat on. It was a crazy visual to see because that hat was the size of a freaking boat. Next tag champs. Possibly. We get a backstage panning of the new women's tag team champions, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. But before they're able to walk, we see Rusev and Sheamus continuing to brawl backstage. We get the confirmation that on SmackDown, we are going to see the appearance of John Cena. If you guys saw SummerSlam, you know that it's pretty apparent that we're going to get John Cena versus Brock Lesnar one more time. So you're going to probably have John Cena address that. And you had Michael Cole talk about how he sat down with Nick Khan and Triple H and what was basically the genesis of the return of Brock Lesnar. So it was a phone call made by Triple H and Nick Khan to Brock Lesnar and told Brock I think it's time for you to come home. And Brock Lesnar said, oh, let's do it. I don't think that's how that shit went, but hey, they'll tell you whatever and people will eat it up. Rick O'Shea is bald. The Lucha Brothers working in the same promotion and not teaming is criminal. Right to jail. They just didn't come in at the same time, man. They didn't come in at the same time. It's a shame. I agree. I don't think that Phoenix should be teaming with Andrade. It just makes no sense. It'd be like Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy working in the same company, but like Jeff is teaming up with like Tajiri or something, right? But you see Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, they come out. You get a "You Deserve It" chant to Charlotte Flair. She comments that this is probably the first "You Deserve It" chant I have ever gotten in my career. She says it feels amazing to be a champ again. And Alexa Bliss interrupts her and said it feels amazing for we to be champs again. And then you had Charlotte tell Alexa's like, if you stop hitting me in my head, we could be, and we see just her stop. She says, well, let's not put label on things. And you had Alexa say, it sounded like you were about to say the F word. And then Charlotte replies, you are a pain in my A word. And then you had Charlotte basically count off her accolades, and she asked Alexa Bliss, how many championships have you won? Before we could get deeper into this conversation, we were interrupted by the former tag champions, Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez. And you had Roxanne basically ask Raquel, she says, and ask Alexa, why would you want to be friends with Charlotte Flair? She says, I wouldn't want to be friends with Charlotte Flair. And then he says, we're here to bring the championships back to the Judgment Day. And you had Charlotte Flair issue a challenge. That, why don't we do this tonight? And we're going to kick your A words, right? Adam Pearce comes out again, repeats what he said earlier. He says, usually with these championship matches, I like to promote it, but this isn't a usual night. And we're going to get that match right now. Tag team championship match impromptu between these two teams. Alexa Bliss was able to get the pin for her team. I think that was good. I know Charlotte Flair, she is this overwhelming figure when it comes to everything that she's doing. So for them to have Alexa pick up this win against the former tag team champions, I feel as it was a good opportunity to showcase Alexa as well. Because with that big shadow that casts over her, not just with the fact that she is smaller in stature, but Charlotte Flair is in the business big in stature. Sometimes you can get lost in the shuffle. And it was good to see her pick up that win. Next, we get a backstage segment with Io Sky. She's over there with the Kabuki Warriors. She's confronted by Rhea Ripley. And Rhea basically says, I heard that you asked for a one-on-one match for the women's championship. And Io responds with, I didn't get pinned at SummerSlam. And you have Rhea tell her, I hope that you're able to win this match so we can sit there and run it back again. And Io tells her, Rhea, you weren't going to beat me, and you're never going to beat me. The show, it was very female heavy. You had multiple different segments by the women, and you had basically Seth Rollins' group. Those were the main stars of this show for the most part. We get Bayley after what went down at SummerSlam. She's backstage looking for Lyra. She runs into Lyra. She tries to apologize, but Lyra says, I got to find a way to get out of this Bayley vortex. I can't challenge Becky for the championship anymore. And after that, we're not friends. We're not enemies. Just stay away from me. Poor Bayley, right? All she did was try to help. She screwed it all up, and now she lost a friend. And Lyra lost an opportunity to wrestle for the IC title. I feel like they emphasize the IC title for the women a lot more than they do for the men. I know they have the IC title on Dom, which is good because Dom is one of the more over guys in the whole company. But it really feels as if they are making this IC title for the women feel like how they made the IC title feel in the late 90s, where it was just like not so much the secondary title, but it was just like that slight notch below the WWE Championship. Dom versus Dragon Lee. They're trying to have Dom wrestle as many luchadors as possible to have him have a big spot at the AAA show. I know that that's this whole thing. Dominic Mysterio, the greatest luchador to ever live. He was able to pick up the win against Dragon Lee. He was going to do the boot spot again, but AJ Styles makes the save and prevents it. We see Sami Zayn coming off of his big win against Karrion Kross. He is interviewed by Jackie Redmond, and she says, how does it feel to be proven, to prove Karrion Kross wrong? Karrion Kross could possibly be on the way out. His contract runs out this weekend. That is what all the dirt sheets are reporting. But who knows when it comes to that? There's a lot of times that deals get struck at the last moment. Also, could be a work. Never know. This is the crazy world of professional wrestling. But he says, I'm not really worried about proving people wrong. So, but the moment that kind of repeats itself in my head over and over again was the moment that Scarlett handed me the pipe. She wanted me to use it. He wanted me to use it. And honestly, I wanted to use it, but I couldn't. And we need to get back on track. And my goal is to be world champion. And I'm going to be world champion. And when I be world champion, I want to do it the right way. He is interrupted by brawling Sheamus and Rusev again. Guys, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe. It helps the channel out in more ways than you even know. It's been a crazy couple of hours, man. But Becky comes out. She has a promo. She says, ding dong, Lyra is dead, basically. She says, it's time to have new competition, but not tonight, right? Physically, I feel fine. But before she could get into it more, she is interrupted by WWE Hall of Famer Nikki Bella. And she calls Becky one of the GOATs. Becky corrects her and says, I am the GOAT. And she says, when I stepped away, when you were coming into the WWE, I saw a lot of promise in you. And I knew that if I stepped away, the women's division would be in good hands. And she says, but you're not in good hands. Not only have you been handcuffing, not only have you not been setting a good example for the next generation, you have literally been handcuffing the next generation. And she says, Becky, I'm back because I want to test myself because the women's division is the best it's ever been. So, but why are you back? Did you get jealous because of women like Lyra getting to shine? Or was it that Hollywood, it didn't work out for you? And then Becky brings up the fact that she is in the hottest movie of the summer, Happy Gilmore 2. Did you guys check out Happy Gilmore 2? I thought it was pretty funny. I have low expectations for these comedy sequels 99% of the time, but I think it was pretty solid. She says, Nikki, you were also in Happy Gilmore 2, but you got all your scenes cut. And my reach in WWE goes as far as Hollywood. I was the one who got your scene cut because the movie wasn't big enough for the both of us, right? And Becky gets called a liar by Nikki. She says, you're a liar like your husband, Seth Rollins. She said, but the difference is people actually bought into Seth Rollins. Nobody is buying into your BS. And Becky says, me and my hot husband are the greatest couple in WWE. And you could have been, but and you know what that means. This was some harsh shit. She said, but you can't see him anymore. And you heard all the crowd basically go, oh, snap. Oh, shit. Because every time that we've seen their relationship been brought up multiple different times. CM Punk brought it up in John Cena's build towards their match. And now we have Becky Lynch bringing it up to Nikki Bella and her match, right? Cheap shot. Becky Lynch cheap shots Nikki Bella. It looks as if we're going to have that match being set up probably for Clash in Paris. Solid stuff. That line was pretty brutal. But I honestly don't get too excited for Nikki Bella matches. But hey, there's an audience for everything, right? You have Naomi getting backstage interviewed by Byron Saxton. And Byron basically tells Naomi, he says, hey, you called your shot at SummerSlam and you proved people wrong. And she confirms that she will have her match with Io Sky next week. is she is interrupted by my favorite wrestler on the WWE roster, Stephanie McCure. She says, yo, if it's you or Io, I'll be waiting for you in Paris. And Naomi says, oh, trust me, it's going to be me. I am going to take your horns and shove them so far up your behind that you are going to be walking out of Paris with a limp. She is threatening to sodomize Stephanie McCure. That is not bueno. The main events, LA Knight, Seth Rollins for the world title. We get this next. There's multiple different spots that I really liked. I know that there's been a couple of different opportunities where LA Knight has had these high profile opportunities. And I know that LA Knight isn't the most, isn't most known for his in-ring ability. Nobody is ever going to confuse him for Bret Hart in that ring. But LA Knight, I feel like for what the opportunity that he was given tonight, he was able to really be put in a position where he was able to showcase, I can't believe it, dude, Lesnar is actually back. Man, so I always kind of had a feeling that Brock was going to come back, right? I don't think that it was ever a doubt that Brock was never going to come back to the WWE, but I always thought that it was going to be after he was cleared from any wrongdoing. I think what makes this situation so controversial is the fact that that suit is still ongoing. We don't know the role that Brock Lesnar played into. We don't know if what we heard is the extent of it. We don't know if this was the first opportunity where basically a woman was dangled towards Brock as a negotiation ploy. And we don't even know if Brock was the only person that ploy was played against as well. So there's so many different unanswered questions that we have. That's why it feels not as if it's a good moment. And I don't know if you're a woman who works in the WWE, I don't know how you would feel sharing a locker room with somebody who we don't know could possibly be a person who is not so nice. I think the way WWE looked at it was they just waited until the case died down. They didn't even start talking about it again until after he come back. Yeah, but you say that, right? And I kind of get the line that you're thinking. But as soon as you saw him, like, that would be one of the first things that popped into people's minds. Like, when his music hit, that's the first thing that popped into my mind. I know the people in the arena, like, they went ape shit because it's kind of, Pavlovian dog where you hear the music and your instant reaction is to cheer. But I know that was my first reaction, was thinking about the case. I know that was a lot of other people's first reaction. I think that it just opens up a Pandora's box of discussions that don't need to be had. And think about this too. What I don't get so much about it is this. It's not as if WWE is in a spot where things are going so poorly, where they're needing to scramble and find different ideas to pump up business. We hear all these different, on a weekly basis, all these different times where you hear them, tote the fact that this is the most attended Raw in this city in history, or this is the biggest gate for Backlash or Survivor Series in history. This is the most money they've made quarterly in the past decade. So it's not as if they are hurting. I feel as if it's like you're adding somebody who has a lot of baggage into the equation when it's not needed. That's the whole thing that really gets at me. I was like the people in the arena, to BH. I wasn't even thinking about the case, was just happy. That's fine. For me, I'm not into telling people what to think or how to feel. If you were excited about it, hey, that's a you thing. Just me. That was just me individually. The thing that popped into my mind. It's a no judgment zone around here. Another thing, creative, just from like a creative standpoint, I know everybody's going to look at a potential match with Gunther as, okay, this is something everybody wants to see, which makes sense. But outside of that, I don't think there's a lot of creative juices or there's a lot of meat on the bone when it comes to him creatively because he's wrestled everybody there is to wrestle. He's wrestled Seth Rollins, he's wrestled Roman Reigns, he's wrestled everybody there is to potentially do it. Maybe another match, maybe a match with Braun Breaker. That could be interesting. Jacob Fatu, that could be interesting as well. There's a couple matches, but for me, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Now I get you. If you didn't like it, that's fine. For me, it was Miss Brock for so long. It was legit went crazy. Get your point of view. I'm cool. Like from a match standpoint, like when after his stuff with Cody Rhodes, I was like, if this is his last match, I'm cool. Because like I said, he wrestled everybody there is to wrestle. So I didn't think that there was anything more interesting for him to do just from that standpoint. A match that I think people would want to be interested into as well would be, but I don't know how this would work because Brock is going to come back as a heel, and this guy, doesn't matter what role he plays, he's going to be the heel, is Logan Paul. I think that'd be kind of interesting to see, right? Brock and Logan Paul. I think that'd be something that people want to see, just to see Logan Paul get his ass kicked for like 10 minutes straight, right? But during this main event, there was times where LA Knight was able to shine. There was times where he was able to look as if he was possibly going to win. I think we all knew at the end of the day that he wasn't going to win, but you had the suspension of disbelief for a little bit that there was a sort of opportunity. They were brawling on the outside. The concrete was exposed from the padding on the ground. Seth Rollins was going to go for a stomp on the exposed concrete, but we see CM Punk jump out of the crowd like a spider monkey. He attacks Seth Rollins, gets the DQ. He is just hammering away on Seth Rollins multiple different times. You see LA Knight get the realization that shit, I lost because of the DQ. He pulls CM Punk off him, says, "What are you doing?" And then just like a freaking missile, this guy Braun Breaker is just an insane athlete. This guy is he's legit. He darts like a missile and he spears the shit out of CM Punk. And you get the rest of the Vision coming in, and the numbers are overwhelming. They are just going at Seth Rollins. They're going at CM Punk and Braun Breaker. You had them just laying out. It looked as if the show was going to be over. We get the end credits, and then you hear none other than the OTC. Roman Reigns' music hit. If you guys don't know, we are very pro Tribal Chief here at the Fast Count. Roman Reigns clears house. We get that face-to-face stare down between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. Seth Rollins looks as if he's calling Roman Reigns into the ring. Seth Rollins rolls out. He tries to do that as a diversion, but Roman Reigns is able to catch Braun Breaker. And you see Braun Breaker and Roman Reigns going at it, which is a potential WrestleMania main event right there in itself. But then the numbers game catches up to Roman Reigns as well. Roman Reigns gets his shoes stolen again. I don't know if you guys know anything about sneakers, but Roman Reigns comes out in some very expensive Jordans. He was in some shy ones in this. No, he wasn't in shy ones. It wasn't shy ones. I forgot what J's he was in tonight, but I know that he got his Spizites stolen last time. And you see the Tribal Thief have two pairs of Roman Reigns' J's, and we end the show with the Vision standing strong. Knight was very good tonight as a fan and as a student of the game. This was a great time to showcase his skills. You know what's funny? LA Knight, and I had somebody talk to me who's not into wrestling that much, right? Who's very much a lapsed fan. I think it was a couple weeks ago. I was watching Smack. I don't remember if it was SmackDown or Raw, but LA Knight was talking, and I'm sure you're very familiar with Kevin Nash coming out and saying that LA Knight sounds like a mixture of The Rock and Steve Austin. She came out and said it. She was like, "Who is this guy?" I was like, "Oh, that's LA Knight." She's like, "Oh, he sounds like The Rock and Steve Austin," without even knowing, those comments. And I was like, "Holy shit!" LA Knight's good. I really liked his work in TNA as well. When he was Eli Drake. it just feels as if he's right on the cusp of potentially breaking into the upper echelon of the WWE. But with him being at the age that he's at and being kind of stop and starts with his pushes, it might not be the time for LA Knight, unfortunately, and it sucks for a guy who's that talented, right? Seth and LA Knight are honestly some of the best people to watch tapes on if you want to learn, wrestle, and sell. They're perfect. What's funny, man? One of my closest friends, he's a wrestler on the indies. And we have these conversations all the time. And it's just like, man, when we were in high school, who would have thought that you'd actually be wrestling and I'd be talking about it? LA Knight is good. Seth Rollins is good too. I think that with all these different, great in-ring wrestlers that are out today, people kind of forget just how good Seth Rollins can be. And Seth Rollins is probably, if you want to have a conversation of what makes the perfect wrestler, I think Seth Rollins fits a lot of qualities into what people are looking for when they talk about it. Guys, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe before we wrap this thing up. I think that people heading into SmackDown now with what went down at SummerSlam, I think that we're setting up it very nicely, right? You're getting the appearance of John Cena. He's going to wrestle Brock Lesnar. That's set up. Cody Rhodes with the WWE champion. Championship. We are probably going to hear now see who is going to be his next opponent. That should be shaping up very nicely. So there's a lot of things going on in the WWE to where we are going to be getting some answers very shortly on some pending questions that we all have. Triple Mania, I believe it's this week as well. Not 100% sure if I'm going to do a post show for that, but it's depending on what goes on this weekend, it's a good possibility. I'm sorry, but that was a boring episode and killed all of SummerSlam momentum for me. Well, I thought I thought we got the answers to certain questions that we needed. We all want to kind of know about what's going on with the Brock thing. They kind of explained why Brock was brought in. Seth Rollins was answering the questions that we all kind of wanted to know. What went into the faking of the injury, all these different things. I thought that was important storyline progressions for how these things are starting to shape up, Carson. But if you want to just sit there and ask me, was this an episode of Raw where I was hanging by the edge of my seat? Of course not, right? I don't think it was that. But for me, I thought that having two wait, I missed the thing about Brock. So basically, Michael Cole, they were recapping. They did like a video package of Brock Lesnar's return, and he was on the announcer desk, and he said, "Hey," he said, "I spoke to Triple H and Nick Khan earlier today and asked them, what went into the return of Brock Lesnar," and he said that Nick Khan and Triple H, they got on a phone call with Brock Lesnar and said it's time to come home, and Brock Lesnar said, "Let's rock." So didn't have Brock Lesnar on screen. John Cena, he is going to answer the questions of the Brock Lesnar angle that they had. So it's set up for that to where it's going to be something interesting. Shoot, I don't do SmackDown post shows though, but I might do it for that one, right? Or I'll just drop a video afterwards. That'll work better for that. Are you guys excited for a potential John Cena and Brock Lesnar match at this stage in their careers? I thought that Cody Rhodes and John Cena match was very good, but I think that it was pretty obvious that they had to use smoke and mirrors for it, right? John Cena, he's not the John Cena of 10 years ago, not even the John Cena of 5 years ago. So I think for him to have quality matches, you're going to need these type of stipulations to kind of hide it. I think that it's going to be crazy to see because we haven't seen Brock Lesnar wrestle in over 2 years. John Cena, like I just mentioned, isn't the John Cena of before. So I am just kind of on that potential match. I think when people kind of started fantasy booking what this retirement tour was looking like, I don't think anybody had Brock Lesnar as one of the opponents that they were kind of yearning for. But I also think that most people thought that wasn't an option. Because we had just a couple of weeks ago, Daniel Cormier on his podcast with Mighty Mouse talking about, because Mighty Mouse is a UFC fighter. If you guys don't know, asked about, we were talking about Brock Lesnar, and Daniel Cormier said that Brock Lesnar is on the TKO shit list at the moment because I guess Mighty Mouse did not know what Brock was accused of doing. So he said, I'll let you know off camera. I had an interesting discussion earlier today with one of my content friends that do this thing as well. And we had, and I want to know what you guys think about this. We were discussing how I said that this thing is still open. So with the Janelle Grant thing, so it's bad for business to bring Brock Lesnar in. And he had it to where he said that, well, obviously this thing has to be wrapped up, because if it wasn't wrapped up, it'd be bad for business. They care about what Brock Lesnar allegedly did because they have sponsors, so obviously they care. If you guys don't keep up with UFC at all, right? And if you guys, I'm pretty sure you guys don't know, but I'm going to remind you guys. UFC is under the TKO banner as well with WWE. And in UFC, who is owned by TKO, we have had Dana White, who runs the UFC, be recorded on camera slapping his wife. We have had John Jones beat up his, I'm just going to go with allegedly so these guys don't sue me, allegedly beat up his girlfriend in front of their child. And you had Conor McGregor be convicted in a civil court in Ireland and had his appeal just rejected of rape, right? And all these different things have one thing in common. It was two things in common. It was under the TKO banner, and they did nothing to rectify this. And the reason why they did nothing to rectify this is because it didn't affect business. McGregor, if he fights Michael Chandler, that's going to sell out the venue, and it's going to be a big time story. John Jones, if he's going to fight again, it's going to be a big time show. It's going to sell out the venue. So none of these things affected business. So TKO was able to not discipline these individuals because it didn't affect their bottom line. They do not care about morality. They care about, does this affect business? And if it doesn't affect business, we're going to let this thing roll. Allegedly. Will be interesting to see who's challenging Cody next. I hope it's The Rock, but probably not. Also, I think that Drew makes a lot of sense because they're coming. Drew or Logan Paul makes a lot of sense because they're coming off of a big win against Jelly Roll and Randy Orton. So if I had to be a betting man, it's going to be one of those two guys. I don't think that you can count The Rock in any plans, Carson, because you got to remember this. The Rock, he has his Smashing Machine movie coming out soon, so he's going to be on the press tour promoting that. Also, I don't know if it's still filming, but sooner rather than later, he's going to have to promote the Moana 2, the Moana live action movie. And he's also going to be having to film that Martin Scorsese movie with Leonardo DiCaprio this year as well. So I don't think the guy is going to have a lot of free time. And it made all the sense in the world for him to be at WrestleMania last year, and he wasn't filming anything then, and he didn't show up. So I don't think that you can count The Rock in for anything. Drew beat Cody in a singles match last year, before Mania as well. That's true. They can always call back on that as well. One thing I do like about Triple H's booking is he does callbacks to things that happened before. Under Vince, something could have happened last week, and all of a sudden, like, it never happened. So Triple H, he'll call back to things that happened months ago because us as fans, we always remember these things, right? Guys, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't. Hitting the like button really does help a lot. If you guys don't know, it spreads the word and pushes it out to more people. So please hit the like button if you're feeling generous enough. What did you guys think about Jelly Roll? Did you guys think Jelly Roll did a good job? Did you guys think that for a guy who was obviously not a professional wrestler, what did you think about his performance? I think it could have went a lot worse. I think it could have went a lot worse. He didn't have to do much either. He just had to use his size for the most part. So I thought that Jelly Roll, for a non-wrestler, did pretty good. SummerSlam was a pretty good show for the most part. I know me and Carson kind of disagree. I know he liked night 1 a lot better than night 2. I thought night 2, from a match standpoint, was a lot better. I know that night 1 had the shocking moment of the cash in, but I feel like night 2 had an even bigger shocking moment with the return of Brock Lesnar. One thing I didn't like about the whole SummerSlam thing is I didn't like the fact that they got rid of the scrums afterwards. Now I know that for some reason they have people in those scrums asking the dumbest freaking questions, like, what is your Waffle House? I love when celebrities get involved, even if it's cringy. I don't mind it if it makes sense. Like okay, AEW, they have they have the Costco guys come in, right? I feel like it's not the same because the Costco guys, they wrestle guys who are lower on the card, and it's on the pre-show. So it really has no effect on the main show. For me, though, like examples of the past, like you're having Lawrence Taylor, main event, WrestleMania, or Jelly Roll being on the main card in a prominent match when you got other people like, Carmelo Hayes not being on the card, and even the Street Profits they talked about prior to SummerSlam that they went like 16 months without being on a PLE show. Bigger than the most of the AEW roster. Don't do that, Carson. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Do not be that guy, man. Dynamite post show is on Wednesday. Thank you for mentioning the AEW. Dynamite post show is on Wednesday following Dynamite, so be there as well. I kind of like the post. The Big Justice and what's the other guy? Big AJ. They liked one of my TikToks that I made on them. You guys follow me on TikTok. It's under the same name as the channel. It's basically just my shorts though. But I don't get YouTube gets all of the shorts. TikTok just gets some of them. But Big Justice, he's a big boy too, right? What about the Rizzler? Rizzler's cool. But guys, it's been a long night. I'm gonna get out of here. Got work in the morning. So there's a lot to be discussed throughout the week. Be sure to be on the lookout for more content coming out throughout the whole week. Like I said a minute ago, Dynamite post show, be there on Wednesday. And it's pending, but we could possibly see a Triple Mania post show as well this week. It all depends on what is going on. But guys, I am Kevin Zwicker. I'm out.